Hello again, everybody. It's Stitrodon back with another action figure review. Today I'll be reviewing the 2004 Neca Gozer, as well as the Diamond Select version of Gozer. This is a review I've wanted to do for a while now, because I recently got my Ghostbusters display all assembled. So here's the two figures. As I mentioned, this one's from 2004. This one's from about 10 years later. So pretty decent time gap for the two of them. Pretty standard for Neca around that time period. Big title on the side picture. You got a nice display here with you got alternative hands, an alternate head, and on the side of the package here, you got the Gozer picture. It is interesting to note that the side picture and the back picture don't show any articulation in the thighs, which I find is interesting. Possibly they didn't have that as part of the character design as of yet, because this picture looks very similar to what the actual figure looks like, but not the other pictures, so I'm not sure about that. So here we are with the two Gozers side by side. The left one being the Neca version of Gozer, and the right one being the Diamond Select version of Gozer. So very quickly we'll do a height comparison. So the Diamond Select one is just a little under 7 inches. And the Neca Gozer is about 7 inches, a little over 7 inches. So the Diamond Select Gozer is very different in appearance from the other one, and I almost want to say it has kind of a cartoony kind of face to it. The hair seems more rigid, less natural. The face looks a little less kind of sculpted for realism. I don't know, it's not a bad looking face. It's not 100% what I would say is authentic, because especially the eyes are not, they're supposed to be like solid red, and this one actually has pupils, so I'm not too fond of that. It is very difficult to get either figure to stand. The high heels make it very difficult for them to stand otherwise. But yeah, overall the posability on this one is significantly higher than the Neca version. The detail is another thing I can go into here. The detail on the this kind of costume is very different for each one. There's a lot more lines and sculpt work on the bubbles with the lines. On the Diamond Select version, there's lines all throughout. It's very nicely done, and very nicely painted all around. So like I said, it's not a bad figure, but when I think of Gozer, I think of, especially in the face. The face is very important, because the way that the figure looks should look very similar to how the movie looked, unless it is a cartoon figure based off of something like the real Ghostbusters, in which case that's not too bad, but it's not intended to be based off of that. It's intended to be based off the movie. This is the alternate head for the Diamond Select Gozer, and same kind of thing. It kind of lacks the realism of how the character looked in the movie, and being an alternate head, the mouth is not different hardly at all. There's like a slight opening of the mouth. The hair is nicely done, but for an alternate head, compared to the alternate head for the Neca Gozer, it is significantly lacking. So you can see the nails are nicely sculpted on there, and the hands are more of like a soft, relaxed pose, almost as if they're supposed to be holding something. The other ones are more outstretched, as if she's going to fire lightning, as she does in the movie. So they're nicely done. Once again, it'd be nice if they did have a lightning effect, but this figure is definitely more about the articulation. That's kind of a disappointment, because that's like 10 years to kind of draw upon what they could have improved from the other figure. But very quickly I'll go into the articulation on this one. So the head does move in a full 360 on a bowl joint, and you can pop the head off. I won't do that right now because the other head is just this one. But you have the arms can move at the shoulder. They're a bit stiff on this one, but you can move them at the shoulder. And they can go full 360 like so. Bend at the elbow, swivel at the elbow, and then the hands and the wrist articulate about that much. The waist goes significantly more articulated than the Neca one does, as I'll get into. It seems to be like a full range of motion on a peg, possibly a double peg. Can't confirm that without snapping it off, but it looks like it's going to be a double peg in there. So you get a nice range of motion there. You can do a full set of the splits with the Diamond Select Gozer, so that's very nice that you can do that. So you can get into some nice crouching poses with that amount of articulation. The hips go back about that far, and it can kick about that far, and it go double jointed at the knees, so you can bend like that. So it's nice they included that. And then the ankle is on a, it's not quite a pivot, but it's like it's a double ball peg, it looks like, and you can articulate it forward and backwards like so. So this is the Neca Gozer, released in 2004, and as you can see, there's a significant difference in the look from the Diamond Select one. Not just in the way that it's sculpted, but in certain details that are a little more pertinent. The Neca one seems to have almost like a realism to what the costume looked like. It lacks in posability significantly compared to the Diamond Select one, but the detail on the costume is a little more authentic. The other one had a lot of lines sculpted into a lot of the bubble work on the action figure, but for actual authenticity compared to the movie, there's a lot more similarity to this one than the other one. Main difference I noticed right away was the neck piece here at the collar. That one doesn't even have a place on the Diamond Select one. As you can see, it's not there at all. So it's nice that I put that on the Neca one, but once again, that's one of the details I felt that Diamond Select could have easily corrected in the huge amount of time they had. I'm not sure if anybody over there drew comparisons from this one and said that this one's already been made, so we'll have to make something a little bit different to put our own spin on it. But if you're making something based off a movie, it really should be to the movie. The head on this one comes off very easily. So this one, as I mentioned, is significantly more authentic to the movie based on the fact that Gozer doesn't have any pupils, or at least none that you should be able to see. Kind of like a red within a red, if I remember the movie correctly. The hair is nicely done in kind of like a brush stroke to give the flat top style of haircut, very real looking look to it. And another detail I noticed is, and I thought it was paint right away, but the two dots, there's a dot there, and then there's another dot over there on top of the eyebrow there. So I thought those were paint marks, but it's actually authentic to what the character has in the movie. And if I go back to the alternate head on the Diamond Select one, that's not prevalent at all. There's like a little mark right there, but that's not, it's not on there. So comparing the two, this one is significantly more authentic. Just the hair and the face sculpt on this one is, like as I mentioned before, it looks almost cartoony. This one looks a little more, or should I say a lot more realistic to what the movie looked like. So this is the other head sculpt, and you can see there's a bit of a difference. There's a bit of a difference other than the facial expression in the hair. The dot on this one is a little more apparent on either side. And I'll probably end up displaying my figure with this one a lot more, simply because I like the expression on this one. So you can see, like, the eyes are identical. So the mouth on this one, as you can see, is wide open, and there's good detail on the teeth, the jaw structure. Very nicely done. And this was done 14 years ago. And these are the alternate hands that the Neca Gozer comes with. And as you can see, it has a very good lightning effect, displayability there. The lightning is not simply in one solid stream either. It's very like interconnected. Some of it's higher, some of it's lower. It's very kind of like a webbing almost, and it's attached at the fingers there, as you can see. So just kind of shooting from Gozer's hands. They connect by way of the clear peg. So one thing I'm always concerned of when I put on these attachments to some of these older figures is that the joints will snap. I have had that happen with figures in the past, and it's not very fun, because then you have to glue them, and you might have to glue them in place, so they may or may not be able to interchange anymore. But this one luckily did not have that problem. So, and that's the one, and then I'll do the other one here, and then you can have Gozer shooting the lightning at the Ghostbusters, something like that. And as I'm not sure if I mentioned before, but this one does come with its own stand. The color is really important to me because it just so happens it kind of blends in with the background. They're both a very dark gray. So if you were going to have this Gozer displayed with your Diamond Select figures, it's nice that they included that one in that color, almost as if they were thinking that people could make their own at the time before Diamond Select came up with their diorama there. So as I mentioned before, it's on the head is just on like a ball peg, and it can look around full 360. Can't really get a whole lot of the range of motion down or up, but the side to side isn't too bad. But I don't think a lot of people will have Gozer really kind of looking in a variety of places. But you get a swivel at the arm, no elbow articulation, but you do get a wrist swivel. And then the only other articulation on the figure is at the thigh. So good range of motion there for kick on either one. So, as I mentioned before, they both have both figures have good points and bad points. The bad points on the Neca one being the lack of articulation, and I'd say that it's just the overall way in which Gozer can stand, because without the stand that's included, it can't stand. This one has a little more flexibility to try and get into a standing pose, even though it's very difficult with the high heels. But the main pros for this one being the articulation. There is a significant amount of detail on the bubble and costume overall, but the main drawback is just the look of the face. It drives me insane to no end, because there's no reason why a figure that costs as much as this one does, at the price point the Diamond Select set, that these two faces have to look this identical. So that's my disappointment with that one. And for a quick size comparison, here is either figure next to the Diamond Select Terror Dog. So they do scale well with the Terror Dog, either one. The Neca one, being a little bit taller, it doesn't really make a difference, because the Terror Dog can be articulated to be taller or shorter. Overall, I'm going to have to go with the Neca one for being my favorite of the two, simply because it looks a lot better in realism to what the movie set up for what the character should look like. But for articulation, yeah, the Diamond Select is definitely a winner for articulation. So that's my review of both the Diamond Select Gozer and the Neca version of Gozer. I hope you enjoyed this review, and hope to have more videos out soon. Thank you very much.